Hello and welcome. Our planet is home to an incredible amount of biological diversity. Estimates may vary, but it is thought that our planet is host to between 8 million to 1 trillion different species. Now, the higher estimate would suggest that remarkably there are more species on our planet than there are thought to be stars in the Milky Way, and we still haven't discovered them all. Some of nature's creations have the briefest of life cycles. The mayfly, for example, lives a mere 24 hours, just long enough to hopefully procreate before dying. Other animals are blessed with a lifespan that endures multiple centuries, like the Galapagos giant tortoise. Now, the current human life expectancy in the UK is around 81.40 years. So, unlike the mayfly, who spends one day looking for one partner and then dies, we have a much larger chance of potentially finding somebody during our lifespan. And unlike the giant tortoise, well, we're just a bit quicker. Our brains are constantly moving on to the next new, exciting, better thing. And I suppose that is one reason as to why you could say we do end up having more than just one relationship throughout our lives. Some people argue that humans shouldn't even be in couples at all. And like the natural world, the male should be able to travel across the land and spread his seed with as many people as he pleases. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. It's not how I would like to become a father personally. But it is still an important point to be made. That primal instinct is still very much a part of our natural cycle. I myself am a product of such a cycle, with my father having 3 sons, each with a different woman. Now, I don't think that's how he intended it to happen, but that's just how it ends up going for some of us. Most choose to wander the world for love, while others choose to stay for it. Or most choose to stay for love and few choose to wander. Some of us don't want anything to do with love and relationships, and quite frankly, I don't blame them. They're very complex things, and overall, it's all about what appeals to you the most, which is also a very complex thing to navigate. They end up not going the way that you think they would, or that you expected them to. You end up questioning if it was your fault or their fault, or if it was anyone's fault at all. They can end for countless amounts of reasons. Some very silly, depending on how mature you both are. A few completely out of your control. The universe just decides one day that it's time to stop. Whether that be for now or forever. And most relationships end for very good and serious reasons that actually, in the long run, are beneficial for both the mental and physical well-being of either both, one half, or more of people said within said relationship. Take my parents, for example. Good decision to split up when they did, simply because I don't think I'd be the person I am today if they'd stayed together. But I can't quite start there, can I? No, look, I'll go from the beginning just so we're on the same page, and I'll try and make it quick, right? Right, so it's 1999. My mum is 30 years old and my dad is 35. She had already been married and still was at this particular point in time, and he had already had his first child, which later would become my older brother James. Anyway, so they meet. A few dates here and there, maybe a holiday, a couple proposals without no ring apparently. I don't really know. But what I do know is that I was conceived out in the wilderness of Stammer Park Local Nature Reserve in Brighton. Then 32 weeks after their little walk and 22 days after the beginning of the new millennium, I was birthed into being. I was weighed at 4 pounds and 3 ounces, which is roughly the size of a bag of sugar. I had to stay in what they call a hot cot for 7 days due to my prematureness, and I was so small that when my dad took me down the pub, he would hold me in one arm like this, with my body here, my head in this hand, and a pint in the other. Fast forward 2 or 3 years and well, Mum and Dad aren't together anymore. Now, obviously, I don't remember a lot from that time. I do have one memory. Come to think of it, it might even be the earliest memory I have. She's stood here, he's stood there, I'm, well, in the middle. And they're just arguing and arguing over whatever it was that they were arguing about that day. I remember saying something along the lines of, can you not just take it in turns to speak, please? You know, so I'm a kid and I don't really know what's going on. I just wanted to stop so I can play with my toys or watch my cartoons in peace. But of course they didn't. No, they just kept overlapping one another in an ongoing game of whoever's the loudest is somehow the winner, you know, because we humans, you know, we love a good game, don't we? Look, I'm not telling you this to feel sorry for me. Arguments happen in any relationship. In fact, they're a healthy and vital part of them. If you love each other, that is. Then they're worth it. In a weird way, arguments add towards the love that's already there. But if it isn't, and if it's not already there, well, you really are just wasting your breath and your time, aren't you? But anyway, as I said, good decision to split up when they did. Having them under the same roof really wasn't healthy for them. Yet, having them separated wasn't healthy for me either. At first, it was great. No more arguments, 2 sets of Christmas presents and birthday presents. It worked. Except, now that I lived on my own with my mum, and would see only my dad on the weekend, it gave them this kind of free, unmonitored pass to essentially slag one another off to me. It took me a while to realise, but they were still playing their little game. Only I felt it had now evolved from whoever was the loudest to whoever swayed me first. Now, I could sit here all day and tell you about the horrible things that they said to me, like, honestly, your mum is so fucking mental, don't you ever listen to a word she says. Or, honestly, your dad is so violent, please don't turn out anything like him, promise me. Because it's not about that. That's not the hardest bit. And that's not the saddest bit either. No, the saddest bit isn't being told those things about your parents by your own parents. The saddest thing is being told the exact same thing about your parents by your new step-parents. To sit with someone who, not that long ago, was once a complete stranger to you and your life, yet for them to share the same opinions simply because they are fact. Because you and they understand that perhaps the people who brought you into this world aren't necessarily the ones you should be following. Looking at it now, it's kind of ironic how much they fought over me. It must be the reason why I find confrontation more boring than I do frightful. They spent so much of their time trying to persuade me that the other was wrong or bad or stupid or evil, to the point where they both ended up pushing me right into the middle to the point where I didn't need to be on either of their sides. It kind of forced me to recognise that actually you both chat shit. And I can make my own decisions. Now, I don't know about you, but that's quite a big concept to grasp when you're like 10. But it's not all bad as I'm making it out to be though. Of course I love them, they're my family, I have no choice. I literally owe my life to them, and I understand how lucky I am to still have them in my life. However, realising something like that at such a young age really did give me my first taste of freedom. I did now have a choice. For years, I felt like I was their ball in their game of ping pong, and now I'd finally hit the net and rolled off the table. And it was rolling off that table that awoke this innate curiosity and independence from within that trickled down into every aspect of my attitude and my perspective towards this confusingly divided, man-made world. It made me question more than the authority of my parents. It made me question the idea of authority altogether. Now, whether that's a good or a bad thing is up to you. But that is what it is, isn't it? Our world, man-made, or better yet, human-made. Made. Invented, constructed, designed, and governed. Does anybody know what the word government actually translates to? No? So the word govern in Latin translates to gubernare, which means to control, to direct, to rule. And then ment or mentis translates to mind, to intellect. The word government literally translates to control mind. But they don't teach you stuff like that at school, do they? No. It seems to me that the only thing that you do learn from school is how to listen and how to obey without questioning anything at all. You could say it's like an 18-year forced government training program that sterilises the minds and the potential brilliance of all naturally pure, unbiased, creative, curiously experimental, happy children. Why do you think they're so strong about taking your children away from you at such a young age? For hours and hours a day away from their mother and father, instructing them all the time. Think about it. Compulsory schooling has never consisted of anything but the memorisation of monotonous dead facts and teaching children to master repetitious behaviour. For most of their day, everything a child says must match the interest of their school teachers. Their behaviour must match with a set regulation and a set policy. They can't even go to the toilet without permission. If they wish to speak, they must raise their hand, and every hour or so a bell rings so that everyone knows that they must move on to the next classroom. It couldn't be any more controlling. Imagine if schools actually helped kids find their talents at a young age and help them to develop them over the 12 years, rather than giving them all the same routine, leaving them confused in a life after graduation. Because those few who actually survive schooling, survive conformity and continue on to think for themselves, truly are a rare breed. And it's true. Children desperately need to develop a healthy sense of skepticism, to learn how to be respectful towards their teachers in every way possible, but to question everything, to be taught how to think, not what to think, because you could repeat the same lie over and over and over again and it would eventually be believed as truth. We do have quite a blind belief that teachers would never want to lie to us. And in no way do I think they would personally want to, but it's not their fault. That's just how the system works. They got their lessons and their degrees from the same system that could potentially be lying to us, so what do I expect? But I do know why we blindly follow any type of authority we're given. And it is because of something that is embedded into us way before anything like school is. That something is fear. Blackmail, manipulation, all taking place right under our noses because we let it happen. Government, obey or jail. School, obey or fail. Religion, obey or hell. The whole system is run by fear. Obey your boss. Accept socially imposed beliefs. Go and die in wars started by your country's elites. Save for your old age. Walk on the pavement. Watch the TV. Obey the law. Now repeat after me. I am free. We were born to do so much more than to just go to school, get a job, pay bills and die. This whole circus isn't even about money anymore, is it? It's about power and control, and it's actually frightening how so little of you take this seriously. Yes, I'm all about love and peace and friendship and well-being. I mean, look at me. But before we can get to that point, we have to recognise the darkness that we are constantly surrounded by. We cannot close our eyes to that any longer. Because for me, it's all about destroying this desensitising culture that encourages the individual to lower their awareness through stupid intoxications such as TV and social media and useless drugs like alcohol, tobacco and money. Now, I'm no perfect person, no guru, no saint. I have my demons, my bad habits, just like we all do. But I'm willing to bet that I will be met here by others while we find a way out together by going within ourselves. Consider the harm that you bring. Confront it. And question whether there is another path that you can take. Be real with that. No tiptoeing through poor excuses or sheer ignorance. There is no more space for that left on this planet. We have the tools necessary to build a bigger, brighter and better world that we all know is possible. The truth is, I'm a difficult person to love. Now, whether that's because of the way I was brought up or it's because of my innate characteristic, I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm reserved. I don't ask for much, nor do I give much. And admittedly, that has cost me a few friendships and a couple of intimate partners throughout my life. And that's because my favourite surroundings involve immense solitude. Like a lake, or a mountain, or even what I've made for myself here. Anywhere where it is my soul and the ambience of the wilderness that comforts me. However, my dreams, they contradict my nature. For I have ambitions to bring together bright and outcasted people together with purpose. To seek creatively wild people that have a touch of madness and magic about them and give them a centre filled with activities for the growth of the spirit. I wasted too much of my life feeding the mouth of that monetary system that we embedded onto ourselves and yet have the audacity to call it life. That is no life. That is a game. A game I had to simply walk away from. But the days that I did get up, the days I did play, the small slither of hope that got me through each and every day was that dream. That community. To have you all here gathered, smiling at each other, at our brave efforts while we try to understand one another as well as the universe better. To have you all sit here, sitting with me, would be a delightful sight to behold.